I'd like to go back to the remand. You've not given me a firm date. I have asked in writing. I'd like to enter those records into those letters into the record. I'd also like to enter a letter from to Mr. Bookbinder of the Sierra Club, in which you again say you do not have a specific time. And I'd like to read you the Supreme Court decision on this subject. Under the clear terms of the Clean Air Act, EPA can avoid taking further action only if it determines that greenhouse gases do not contribute to climate change, or if it provides some reasonable explanation as to why it cannot or will not exercise its discretion to determine whether they do. To the extent that this constrains agency discretion to pursue other priorities of the administration or the president, this is the congressional design. So as I read this, and I believe as your lawyers will probably tell you, this is the decision of the Supreme Court. And I don't understand. You've got 4 people working on this. You've had one thing or another as to why you can't do it. And the only conclusion that I can draw is that you are under pressure not to do it.
Well,
I find this unbelievable on behalf of what is called an environmental protection agency, not an administration protection agency, but an environmental protection agency. Well, and there's a finding of the United States Supreme Court telling you to do something.
Well, Madam Chairman, I respectfully disagree that this is an easy decision. In fact, when it's in the Supreme Court, and if you refer back to, I think Justice Scalia actually set it up as in essence, a 3-part test for me, and this would be my brief summary, and that is if that the agency finds, if I find that there's endangerment, then under the Clean Air Act I must regulate. If I find that there is not, that's test 1. If I find that there is not endangerment, then I should not regulate. Or third, if there are other circumstances, including, and goes through some description of that. What I have found as I have looked at and continue to evaluate the issue of endangerment is that it's not only just the science of and the endangerment, but it's also what is the potential impact of that decision. And the way that the Clean Air Act operates is that a decision in the area of mobile sources could have a significant impact on what happens in stationary sources. And that is all part of the reason why I'm taking time, I think, appropriate. I know people are anxious for me to get on with business, but I believe that it's important. This is an issue that's been debated since 1978. It's clearly, as I said, climate change is a serious issue, and it's one that I'm carefully considering. Mass versus EPA, the issue of endangerment, but also we have a number of pending petitions before the agency, including airlines, including off-roads, including marine, including stationary sources, including NSPS, including PSD, and I can go on and on.
Let me ask you this question. How many personnel right now are working on the endangerment finding?
I don't know specifically at this time how many people are or not working on specific pieces of our work.
We've been told no one is working on it currently.
I would have to check with...
Well, if you'd ask your staff, I'd appreciate knowing what the answer is.
Well, I know that we are focusing our attention on the moment in several parts. One is working on the regulation to implement what Congress and the President signed on the Energy Independence and Security Act, the Renewable Fuel Standard. I know that we are working with...
Is anyone working on this at the present time, Mr. Johnson? This isn't a question I shouldn't answer. This is a question to which I'm entitled to know the answer.
Well, we are, I know I am working on what are the next steps, what's the framework that I should be evaluating the endangerment issue as well as has been the traditional practice of endangerment and what the regulatory approach would be, and that's what I'm currently evaluating.
How many members of your staff are currently working on this?
I don't know the answer to that.
Does anybody know the answer? You have numerous staff in this room. Somebody must. This is a Supreme Court finding.
Well,
you quote the dissenter, not the majority opinion.
As I said,
What?
we are evaluating. I am currently evaluating what are the next steps that the agency should take in response to the Supreme Court, in response to the Energy Independence and Security Act, in response to the myriad of petitions that are pending before the agency. That responsibility rests with me, and as I make the decision as to what the next steps are, then we will be deploying staff. As I said, I know I have staff that are working on a myriad of issues, from the renewable fuel standard to carbon sequestration and injection under the UIC program. I know we have people that are working on the major economies. I know that we have people that are reviewing the McCain-Lieberman legislation, the scientific piece of that. We have a lot of activities, important activities, not the least of which you mentioned the greenhouse gas registry, that we're working on as well. So we have a lot of activities that our staff are working on.
The answer that I deduce from your answer is that you have no one currently working on it. And I want the record to reflect that, and I give you every opportunity to change that, to give me a number. And if you can't give me a number on something that is a Supreme Court finding and that has asked you to respond, then I've got to believe you're stonewalling. And I want the record to reflect that.
Madam Chairman, I am not stonewalling. I've shared with you very openly and candidly of the importance of the issue of endangerment, not only in the mobile source context, but in the context of the Clean Air Act, and that we are, since the Energy Independence and Security Act, which again complement. It's been 32 years since the CAFE standard has been changed. That's significant and very important. But I'm looking at all these and then determining what our best steps should be in deploying our 2008 resources. And that's what I'm working on.
Okay.